everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Andrea. It's nice to have you guys here. Today I thought I'd just kind of sit and have a chat with you. I've got my iced latte. This is probably going to be a bit of a rambly video. I don't have a script. It's just something that some of you had asked me to talk about, and I thought I'd finally sit down and do it before it got too late and before memories started to fade. So I wanted to talk about my experience of spending a week and a half in London and doing everything that I did there while also dealing with fibromyalgia. This was the first time I'd been to London since being diagnosed. And even though obviously I'd probably been dealing with fibro for a while prior to being diagnosed, this was my first time being back since my fibro had gotten as bad as it had gotten this time last year. So things that I made sure that I packed with me. I made sure to bring with me certain pain medications. They don't sell naproxen sodium or Aleve over the counter in London, so I made sure to bring enough Aleve with me to get me through the trip. I brought some of the Dr. Schultz deep tissue oil because that really helps, especially at night when everything hurts. I brought some icy hot patches and I brought some Thermacare wraps. Those two brands specifically really work for me, and I wasn't sure if I could get those two brands over there. I did see Thermacare once I got there. Just as a reminder to those who've been watching me or those who are new, I'm not on any medications for my fibromyalgia. That's a personal choice that I made. No judgment to anyone who does use medication. So I'm not on any medications, but I do use a few different vitamins and supplements to help my body. So I made sure to pack enough of that to get me through the trip. And one tip with those and with any medications, make sure that you have the actual prescription bottle, because if you get stopped at customs, they're going to want to see that it is a valid prescription and not just a bunch of random pills in a bag. Vitamins, I had some empty bottles, and so I kind of decanted just enough into those, and then that helped me take up some room in my suitcase that I then could just throw out in London and have that space free for all of the shopping that I did. So don't bring full bottles with you. If you bring vitamins and things like that, it's better to either put them in Ziploc bags, which I did that for some, and then in empty bottles for others, so that you're only bringing the amount that you need. That way also, if your luggage gets lost or anything gets lost or stolen, you're not out a whole bottle, because some vitamins and supplements can be pretty expensive for a full bottle. So if you're only traveling for a week, don't bring 2 months worth in the bottle, if that makes sense. So I made sure to pack all of those. Once we actually got there, so if you watch the vlogs, you can see, I think, you know, and I do mention it, I did reference it, I was trying not to cut all of those bits out because I didn't want to give a false sense of it being easier than it was, and I also wanted to be able to remind myself, oh yeah, that day hurt. That day hurt a lot. So if you watched the vlogs, you'll have seen I did struggle. It was hard. Part of it was the fibro, part of it was just I was out of shape. You'll have noticed anytime I was walking and talking, I was very out of breath. That's more down to being out of shape and the fact that you just walk faster in London, especially if you're in a crowd. Londoners in general walk very fast. If you're walking through the tube, they walk very fast. They walk with purpose. And so I try to match that speed, and I'm just not in that good of shape right now. And so it was really a struggle. So that was more being out of shape than the fibro, but everything hurt, and that was the fibro. There's a lot of stairs in London. A lot of stairs, and that was very difficult on my knees. I think the things that struggled the most, my knees hurt a lot, my whole back hurt, so my lower back and hips from all the walking, but then my middle back and my upper back, and then from carrying my handbag, that started messing with my upper back and my shoulders. And then just things like fatigue. If I'm really tired and if I'm getting very fatigued, I start to get like a tension headache in the top part of my shoulders and my neck and going up to the base of my skull. So I was getting that a lot. You're walking around all day and you're doing a million things, and that's exhausting. So even if you are sleeping well at night, you're still getting very, very tired. And if you're someone with fibromyalgia or some other chronic illness like fibro, you're gonna get tired a lot faster. And so I just noticed on this trip especially that I was starting to wear down earlier in the day than I was used to, and was getting really, really tired and feeling the pain a lot more. My feet did okay, but I was wearing decent shoes and I had insoles for them, so that made them a little bit more comfortable. But no matter how comfortable your shoes are, if you're walking 7 miles in a day, your feet are gonna hurt. There were some days I was wearing my Fitbit pedometer, and I don't think I did less than 13,000 steps a day the entire time. The day we went to Oxford, I think I did 18,000 steps. So I was walking on average 6 to 8 miles a day, every day, and that's a lot. So my feet were hurting, and my knees were shot, especially by the end of the trip. The day that we went to St. Paul's Cathedral, my knees hurt so bad, and that was before I climbed to the top. But once we got in there, once we'd paid for admission and we were inside the cathedral and doing the tour, it's like, I've seen the rest of St. Paul's, but I had never climbed to the top, and the weather was actually decent that day. It was partly sunny, partly cloudy, so it was a good time to attempt it, so I thought I'd give it a try. And I did okay going up to the Whispering Gallery, and I was still okay going up to the Stone Gallery, because the stairs were a little bit bigger, and there were places to stop and sit and rest, and I did that. But going from the Stone Gallery up to the Golden Gallery, because the stairs are much narrower, my knees, and then coming down was really hard. And I did stop for breaks, but it was really hard going down the stairs. And so by the time we got back down, my knees were done. They felt like they were going to explode, honestly. And then we still had to walk from St. Paul's back over to the Barbican. We were meeting a friend for dinner, and then back to the Tube and back to the hotel. So it wasn't even like that was the end of it. Like, I really messed up my knees and then still had to walk on them. And it took, I'd say, so I've been home for a little over a month now. My knees are only just now kind of recovered. And even then, like today, they're hurting a lot because I forgot to tape them. I've started using athletic tape to give some extra support to them, because I struggle to find knee braces that actually fit, but the tape actually works really well. And that would be something else that now I know. The next time I go to London, I'm taking a ton of athletic tape with me, because I think that would have really, really helped. So that's kind of my experience, and I don't want this just to be me complaining about it, but I did want to kind of share what my struggles were. So I definitely had trouble with pain and with fatigue and with all of that. But as you'll have seen from the vlogs, I also still did a lot. And I had a fantastic time. I think it's very easy when you are struggling with something like fibromyalgia or ME or any of these kind of chronic illnesses, autoimmune illnesses that cause a lot of pain and fatigue and things like that. It's very easy to stay home, to not want to leave, and not want to leave your comfort area. I spend a lot of time here at home. I teach online right now, and my PhD work is at a point where it's all self-motivated. I don't go to classes anymore, so I'm home a lot. And it's easy to eventually kind of just get to the point where you're housebound, even if you don't necessarily medically need to be. And so I think it's important to still make sure that you are getting out and living your life. And obviously some people, their cases are at a point where they can't do that. But if you are someone whose case is more the mild to moderate, like mine is, or even kind of in the moderate, don't put off vacations and travel and new experiences because you feel like it's not going to be the same as it would if you weren't sick. Obviously, if I had no pain and no fatigue, I could have pushed myself a lot more and I could have seen a lot more things. But I don't think I would do that anyway. And when I have traveled to London in the past, that's not really how I like to travel anyway. I think you just burn yourself out even if you are in good health. So know your limitations and plan your trip around that. If you know that you struggle with stairs, try to find places that are more accommodating. I will say, getting around London, being able to walk on your own power is a benefit. But there are a lot of touristy type places that are actually quite wheelchair accessible. So if you need to be in a chair once you get to the destination, or if you have a walker or a cane and you can walk but you can't do stairs, almost every major, I think St. Paul's is the only place, St. Paul's and the Tower of London, of all the places that I've been to, those are probably the two that you would be limited in how much you could see. The White Tower, you have to do stairs at the Tower of London. To get to the Whispering Gallery and the upper galleries of St. Paul's Cathedral, you have to be able to climb the stairs. But if you want to do St. Paul's Cathedral, but you're intimidated by the stairs at the front entrance, around the side there is a wheelchair and stroller accessible entrance. I know these things because one of the summers that I went to visit, I was visiting my friend who at the time had one small toddler who was constantly in a stroller, and I was amazed at how much we were able to do with the stroller and not having to carry the stroller up and down stairs. So the Tower Bridge experience you can do and not have to do the stairs. Just tell them you can't do stairs and they'll instruct you at a certain point when to come back to the elevator. So everyone else will do a small flight of stairs, but you can go back to the elevator and take that. Kensington Palace, there was a section where we couldn't do the stairs and they helped us get around a different way. Hampton Court, same thing. They saw us carrying the stroller up the stairs and they said, when you're ready to go back down, we have an elevator. So there's a lot of places that if you have some mobility issues, you can make them easier for yourself. You just have to do some research ahead of time and kind of know that. There are usually shortcuts and ways around issues and ways to still do something that you want to do. And obviously my experience is mostly London. I don't know a lot elsewhere, but don't feel like you can't ever travel or go somewhere. It just takes a little bit of extra research when you're dealing with something like this. And it also takes the knowledge that you're not going to be able to be out the hotel at 8 a.m. and stay out until 8 p.m. and just do a million things. You're gonna have to plan breaks. And as you'll have seen in the vlogs, there were a lot of times that I stopped into a coffee shop for an hour or so. You know, I'm thinking in particular, there was one time, I think it was day 9 or 10, where I was walking around the South Bank and I stopped into a Cafe Nero. I think in the vlog it was like 20 or 30 seconds. I was sitting in there for well over an hour. I just didn't show you the full hour. And the nice thing about large cities like London, and I noticed the same thing in Prague, and Paris is the same. I imagine any of the major European capitals and tourist centers would be like this. There are coffee shops everywhere. I guess kind of condensing this a bit, my biggest advice for people with fibromyalgia, and obviously if you're someone who is constantly in a flare and can't leave the house at all, then that's a different situation. But if you're someone who's able to manage their fibro to a certain extent and has at least as many good days as bad, it's still important to get out and explore and do the things that you want to do. And I would much rather take a trip, plan a trip, spend the money on a trip, and make it, say, all the way to Paris, and be in a flare, not be feeling well, and spend half the trip sitting in a coffee shop on the Champs-Elysees, that to me would still be preferable to sitting home, because at least from a comfortable chair in a cafe on the Champs-Elysees or in London or in Berlin or wherever, drinking my coffee and watching everyone go by, at least I'm still kind of experiencing that city and that culture and that environment. And so you don't have to do all the touristy things. Sometimes it's more about getting yourself to understand that it's just the experience of simply being somewhere different. And when you are someone who spends a lot of time at home, I don't feel like I have to run around London like a crazy person doing and seeing everything. It really is enough, and just makes me so happy when I can go to one of my favorite coffee shops and see St. Paul's Cathedral across the river and see all the people going by and just be in that space. That is a vacation for me. It's something I can't do here in Phoenix, and so that alone is worth it. So there were a lot of things that we wanted to do on this trip that we weren't able to do, but that's okay, because what I did do was a lot of fun, and even if I'd only been able to do half of those things that I was able to do, the trip still would have been worth it, if that makes sense. So it's about research, it's about planning ahead, and it's about knowing what your body can do, and then it's about being adaptive and flexible. And if you start out a day feeling really great, and then by the end of the day you're not feeling as good as you'd hoped, changing your plans in the middle of the day and not having everything so structured that if you change one thing it throws the rest off. Again, I don't recommend traveling like that anyway, but you definitely don't want to travel with that kind of mindset if you're struggling with any kind of chronic illness or illness that can kind of flare up, because you need to be flexible with your schedule, and you need to be able to say, you know what, this morning was really exhausting, I'm really tired, I think we need to just spend the afternoon in a coffee shop or hanging out somewhere. Museums are really great because there are cafes in all of the museums, so maybe you go see a couple galleries, go to the cafe, have a cup of tea, go see a couple more galleries, come back to the cafe. You can do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's the other thing to remember, that there's no one way to travel. Some people can push themselves, run themselves into the ground, wear themselves out, and then catch up on sleep when they get back from their vacation. Other people like to just kind of hang out and explore things at their own pace. Like, everyone does it differently. So know your body, know what you can do, and plan accordingly. I think part of it is also whoever you travel with has to know that you're gonna have your limits. The trouble is if you're with someone who doesn't understand why you can't keep going or why you need to take so many breaks or whatever, that would be difficult. But if your travel partner is someone who understands, then you guys just, you're flexible together, and either you split up or you hang out in the coffee shop together. You know, either way it works. And I feel like I'm starting to repeat myself, so I'm gonna stop there. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to continue the discussion down there, but I've been talking for 30 minutes now almost, so I'm gonna stop. If you liked the video or if you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. Or let me know in the comments. Let me know any other future fibro chats that you would like me to do, because I do enjoy doing these. It is making me stop and kind of think about it a bit more. But yeah, sometimes I'm at a bit of a loss as to what the next fibro chat should be. So if you've got any other questions or topics for a fibro chat video, let me know. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. And yeah, I will see you all very soon in the next video. And I hope you have a great day or week or whatever applies. Until then, I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.